Welcome back to another episode of Drilling It Down. My name is Liam Fitzgerald. I'll be moderating today, and with me I have the normal host of Drilling It Down, Wes Lyon. Wes, thanks for joining.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for doing this. We got a real important topic to cover today for those of you in the Southeast. And really, too, I think this is probably, unfortunately, sometimes disasters bring out, maybe I should check this. But it kind of pulls out and maybe I should check this on my policy. So we want to talk about business owner policy and hurricanes.
Absolutely right. And our thoughts are certainly with those that are in affected areas. It was really devastating and crazy to see some of the effects. Not a topic we love to cover, but one that's really important to cover as well.
No, especially, Florida is kind of prepared for these things, which it's always devastating, but I think they're a little quicker to be able to get everybody up and running. I mean, my parents live in Vidalia. We've got clients all up through South Carolina. And then, of course, about an hour and a half drive from here is Western North Carolina. Probably not even some of these places are within an hour of us. And, just unprepared. I mean, I remember, Liam, we had a client in that day, and we had to go to my father-in-law's house because he had a generator. And I remember I'm driving to work, and I'm thinking, gosh, who's going to be the first one to text me? We can't go to work today. I'm like, we're going to work today. It's raining. Power line falls right in front of me. Oh gosh. Apparently this hurricane is actually here. It's like 6:30 in the morning. So a lot of us just not prepared for it. And a lot of people ended up in some really, really bad situations. And, Western North Carolina is just an absolute destruction in a lot of the places. But then even my parents were out of power for like 3 weeks. Augusta, Georgia, out of power for a few weeks. And for those of you not from the Southeast, these aren't the real coastal areas that we're expecting it. So, we always get rain and things, but it's, kind of storm just came up through areas you wouldn't expect. And usually by the time it gets inland enough to hit the mountains, I mean, it's just nothing. It's dissipated. It's a rainstorm, but here we are. So, we're hoping the best, and our prayers are out there for everyone who's been impacted. But for those of you that, have been impacted and now it's time to figure out what we're going to do, looking at your insurance coverage is probably your number one thing you should be doing.
Absolutely. We all know that we have business owners policies, and hey, if something happens, if we have some equipment that breaks, sometimes we'll fall on that. But when truly we're talking to some owners right now that they have not been able to open their doors, or they were severely stunted as far as their growth and what they were expected to produce because of the storm. So when we take a look underneath the hood of some of these policies, what is in here that might be able to start protecting us?
Yeah, the first thing you're looking at, if you had physical damage, it's going to be a whole lot easier to prove. So physical damage, generally speaking, first and foremost, if, a tree fell onto something or, it got flooded in your equipment, typically that's going to be covered under physical damage, which we're not going to spend a ton of time on physical damage. That's pretty cut and dry. Most of us know we have that coverage in place. But this brought in some trickier areas. But before we kind of jump through, if you do have physical damage, try to document as much of the before as you possibly can. Pictures are going to go a long, long way to proving your case. So make sure you've got all the before. You don't want the insurance company or the adjuster to come in and say, well, I saw it and it looked dry to me. Well, as you must have saw it after we got to cleaning it out because, it wasn't that dry. So the more documentation that you have, the absolute better it's going to be. I was looking through a couple policies, my own being one of them, just to see, hey, what of this do I have? Like, what would have happened to us should something of this gone on? Good news is a lot of these policies will be written at replacement cost. So if your x-ray machine is 20 years old, and it's only valued at $10,000, hopefully your policy is looking at replacement cost and not actual value of there, because replacement cost would be a whole lot more. I mean, even here, we kind of laugh, but our furniture is, from who knows when, as far as what it would take at auction to replace it. it's not going to auction off for a lot of value, but to get somebody in here and furnish this whole building would be astronomical. So that's the first thing, is hopefully it's at replacement cost. Document everything. You have to look in the policy, but a lot of them, they'll pay if there's physical damage within a certain number of feet of the premise as well. So whether or not it's I looked at mine, I think I had 1,000 feet. So an example of that on the business owner's policy could be that, hey, a tree fell and we couldn't actually access the building. And, in our case, probably get cleaned up pretty quickly, but maybe, you had a sinkhole in the parking lot and you can't access the building, or a sinkhole on the roadway to get there. That's going to be physical damage, and it's likely to get covered. So you need to make sure that you do that. But the first one, we talk about physical damage to the actual facility, but that kind of leads in well to what we're looking for, which is, it could potentially be physical damage that interrupts your ability to practice. And that would be covered under either business interruption or business income insurance. Now, the key provision here is usually the business interruption or the business income, whichever one it's called, that usually takes physical damage. So, sinkhole pops up and nobody can access your practice, and that's the only way in or out. That's physical damage. Even if it's not necessarily within that 1,000 feet, that business interruption coverage could trigger over that physical damage. So it could be a tree fell on the building. It could be all the equipment got taken out. It could be potentially that there was physical damage in the parking lot, but that's going to trigger that business interruption coverage. However, this is where things get tricky, and a lot of people might not have physical damage, but they have financial damage. And that's where we really have to dive in there and look at, hey, how can we try to recover some of this, and should the insurance company pay?
Makes a lot of sense there. And as far as documents that, hey, we can't take a picture of a tree that's in the middle of our parking lot, or there financial documents or something that would showcase that as well?
Now, there definitely are. But before we get there, I think we got to dive in and figure out, what are these coverages and do we have them? Now, this is one where not everybody's going to love the answer, because these are not all standard coverages. A lot of them will be, and you very well may have them. I'm not going to say that you necessarily have to have a super special policy to have these. However, as we go through kind of these different things that could trigger in a policy, I will say I did not have all of them. I just pulled my own policy to say, well, what's the reality of a dentist claiming this? I've got a standard Hartford business owner's policy. We didn't think through a lot of this, just like a lot of doctors, because we're not scared of this. We're worried about the building catching on fire. We're worried about the tree falling on it. We're not usually stressed out about, our ability to actually come to work each day. So the first one that we want to look at is contingent business interruption insurance. Now, this one is probably most prevalent to Western North Carolina. Okay. It could also be prevalent, though, in the Southeast as well, and Florida. And this one really is going to cover you for any supply chain issues. So let's say, you can practice, but the lab is closed, right? Maybe you have a generator, but the lab does not. And now all of a sudden you can practice, but all you can really do is cleanings because you don't have a lab. Well, contingent business interruption coverage can cover that. Now, depending on how much your damage really was, you have to get through the deductible. So if you still did the same level of revenue and you just pushed the crowns out and did other procedures, you're unlikely to get a claim. However, if you truly couldn't get supplies delivered, or you couldn't access a lab and it really impacted your ability to practice, then absolutely this could trigger and you could have a claim on contingent business interruption insurance. So again, it's kind of the same thing as business interruption. It's just no physical damage. We had something else in the coverage that was causing us not to be able to generate the revenue that we're supposed to. So, Perfect. If you think of like an ortho practice, and maybe they want to be open, but they're doing largely Invisalign. They can't get any of their Invisalign in. Well, that stinks, and that could significantly hamper our ability, to do anything.
Sure, sure. And I'm sure once these labs are getting back up in order, whatever that supply chain is, you might not be the first on the list. So there might be a little bit of a residual effect as well. So
Definitely. And then in Western North Carolina, especially, if you can't get to your supply company, if you're in Western North Carolina, just about all these might trigger right now. But another one, hey, the lab is in Charlotte, the lab's open, but they ain't going to deliver to me. Right. Well, that would be business interruption on the contingent portion of it. So there's 2 business interruptions, and you need to check for each of them. If you have no physical damage, now you're looking for contingent. But we got a kind of a laundry list here. We got 3 or 4 more to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when Wes, you and I kind of live south of Charlotte, and when I was driving and passed into South Carolina, so all these linemen start to drive and these trucks heading down to South Carolina, presumably to Georgia, because there were so many different power outages, right? And I know that's a common one when we think of service interruption. Is that right on the same ballpark there?
Yeah, so service interruption coverage, this is going to be a big one that I think a lot of people could get claims off of. Sure. It was weeks in the Southeast for a lot of people in areas you're not expecting it. I mean, my parents are in Vidalia. It's not hurricane territory. I mean, it's Southeast Georgia, so it's not unheard of, but it's pretty unheard of not to have power for 3 or 4 weeks down there. So if you don't have power and you can operate your practice for 3 or 4 weeks, service interruption coverage is really what would cover you because the utilities weren't working. So that's going to be a key provision in there, which, I don't know. I think I had service interruption coverage. I think I did.
Let's go. Okay.
I was looking through because I said, maybe I have a claim here. And then, we fortunately had great clients. One of them did at the kitchen table, and the other flew back in a week later. He had not taken off yet. So I didn't make a claim, but service interruption coverage certainly could, and I think will trigger for a lot of doctors out there.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I know another one that we look at, and probably one of your favorite ones, when the government starts to order businesses to do things and not do things. But certainly in Western North Carolina, there's probably some times when maybe the city of Asheville or another area, they have a government order that's saying we cannot do business in this area for probably some good reason. Talk to me more about if the government steps in.
Yeah, so civil authority coverage, this is going to be a sore spot for a lot of people because as it turns out, pandemics were excluded. So
Go figure.
A lot of people wanted to go to their insurance over the COVID-19 pandemic and found out that although there was civil authority coverage, it excluded pandemics. A lot of them exclude terrorist attack, exclude things like that. So civil authority coverage is typically due to a governmental order restricting access. And in North Carolina, I believe there was a governmental order that we were necessary travel only out in Western North Carolina. And I know, Liam, we know this because Lula and Charlotte, it's about as far west as you were supposed to go on many of the highways. We would just be driving and all the billboards basically said, do not go west on the following highways unless you have an emergency. So, if there was a travel order, and this is where I think in Western North Carolina, though, it's kind of like they better be paying because if we got any one of these, we're going to be getting paid off of it. But yeah, if there were road closures, telling people not to come travel to your area, which I do believe they lifted it recently for Western North Carolina where you can travel there, or let's at least hope, because my father-in-law, he decided he was going to go up there. So
oh, boy. Okay.
We'll find out if he's listening to our podcast or not.
Right.
But yeah, he did go up there. My mother-in-law made him bring supplies. He was, checking on his son's house, and it's like, well, maybe you better bring some supplies before they ask you what you're doing and you say you're going up to a rich person's house.
Exactly. Just going for the view. Right?
But yeah, that could trigger in is a lot of roadways where, do not travel, even if they were there. But that kind of rolls right into this next one that could be more likely to cover, which is, I think it's Ingress, Egress. Did I say that right?
I can't not harm you there. I would have said the same.
This really covers you for the same thing, except if there's not a governmental order. So, we've seen the pictures because we're close to it. But for those of you who haven't, there's roads missing in Western North Carolina. I mean, there's towns missing in Western North Carolina, and there's a ton of roads that just, got swept away. I mean, rivers were moved. So, I mean, getting somewhere is not easy. And, unfortunately, I don't think this will be everyone's practices, but there are people who probably have practices that, could be blocked from entrance for quite some time just due to the road not being there anymore. Sure. And this is the coverage that would typically pay. So it's very similar to civil authority in that, your customers can't get to you. However, this one typically isn't going to require a civil order.
Makes sense.
Little interesting too, it may or may not require physical damage. So as I was looking into this, there were a couple court cases, and actually they were out in eastern North Carolina, where the insurance company said, hey, we're not paying a claim, and we're not paying because there's no damage. And, I believe it was actually a dentist. I can't recall off the top of my head when I was doing this research, but dentist said, well, yeah, this is what the road looked like. And there's no way, anyone was traveling to me that day. This was absurd. And, the courts actually ruled in favor of the doctors to say that, hey, and it might not have been doctors, it might have been someone else, but the courts ruled in favor of the businesses saying, hey, nobody in their right mind could actually get to this business, so you need to pay up. Sure. So that's what's going to cover you. Doesn't necessarily require that physical damage, but some do. So every policy is going to be written a little bit different there, but these are not all the coverages people need to be looking at. Sure. I just think these are some of the more in the weeds one that maybe people aren't as familiar with. They need to be going, hey, do I have that? If I was searching through my policy right now and I was sitting in one of these places, I don't know as much when I was local about how shut down Florida was. Sure. But if you're in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Western North Carolina, and you had issues, I'm 100% I'm pulling my business owner policy, and I am on the hunt for these terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're really in the weeds in this, certainly as a business owner, pretty familiar with this stuff. But if we have some business owners listening right now and they're like, this is some of the first times I'm hearing of these coverages, how do they know? Does the insurance company decide which coverage it is? Does their broker help them? How do they go about deciphering these?
Yeah, well, the first thing everyone needs to do is pull their business owner's policy. You might have it actually got physically delivered. Some of us get them electronically delivered. We don't have full physical copies. So for me, I was able to log into the Hartford, pull a PDF of my policy in about 30 seconds. If you can't do that and you don't have it, contact your broker, your agent, get a hold of your policy. That's going to be the first thing. Once you have it, read it. You don't necessarily need to read every word. Generally speaking, these coverages are going to be grouped together. So get to the section on the business interruption insurance. I mean, these policies kind of all encompassing. So mine's like 284 pages, right? I don't need my employment practices liability. I'm not reading that section right now. I'm not too concerned about that. I am concerned about these things. So go in, look for them, see which ones you have, see which ones you don't have. I would start highlighting them. So when you talk to your agent, your broker, that, you're really informed, because your agent, broker, some of them have more experience than others, but some of them don't have a ton of claims experience. And be patient on some of this stuff, because especially if, we're sitting here in areas that aren't used to dealing with this. So the chances of your broker knowing everything on this 284 pages and going, yeah, absolutely, I've seen this before, probably not. Now, down in Florida, hammer them.
Right. So they've seen it.
I hope you know what this stuff is in Florida, but the inland communities that have been impacted, it's unlikely anyone really knows a ton about this. So you just you got to dig into the details. And, another piece of advice I have is don't trust anyone else's opinion on it more than your own, because they're not the ones sitting there suffering the financial losses. Sure. So you really want to dig into this thing for yourself. It's not a bad idea, depending on the extent of your damage, to call an attorney to help you fill out the form. Okay. So I'm not entirely against that. I was actually looking at McGuire Wood's website. They were very helpful. But just having somebody give it a second look over and make sure everything's in good order. If you're filing a small claim, I may not worry about it, but if your entire business has been taken from you, sure, you're going to want to dig through every nook and cranny of that policy and make sure that, you're getting paid out to the maximum.
Fair enough. And there's a reason that you're writing articles about this now while recovery efforts are still happening. There's a reason we're talking about this now. We don't want to think about this a year from now when businesses are fully reopened, right? There's a timeliness factor of this too. Is that right?
There is. So there's every policy is going to be a little bit different, but you have to file a timely claim. Now, it's going to be tough for a lot of people. They don't have all the information. So if you think you can get a claim, you can file a notice of claim, and your broker should be doing this on your behalf. So whoever your broker is, your agent, you'd call them up and at least file a notice of claim. That way they know that you have suffered damage. Like I know in North Carolina, I forget his name, but he was just on the ballot. I just voted.
There we go.
I think it's the insurance commissioner, but he issued a 60-day, I think like a moratorium. I'm probably screwing up the language, but he basically said, hey, everybody's got 60 days to figure their stuff out. So all you insurance companies, don't you dare try to deny someone a claim because, they can't have access or they don't have access to even file it and they didn't get it in timely. So he did put that in there, but you need to make sure this claim is timely. So the sooner we give them notice, the better it's going to be. We give them notice a year later, they're probably going to deny the claim.
I see. Okay. And then, so claiming first, I recall you said taking a lot of pictures as well and making sure we're recovered. Even if we're not fully recovered yet, hey, we want to make sure we're getting this evidence now before that cleanup happens.
Yeah. Another key thing you want to do is you want to take note of all the processes you went through to get back up and running. So a lot of these insurances, like let's say the business interruption is going to trigger. Well, you can't just leave the tree there for 6 months and then expect them to pay you revenue for a year when it takes 6 months to build. You need to process that you were on this, trying to get your business back up and running in a reasonable time. So if you don't have it documented, everything you were doing, hey, the tree was on the roof and I really tried to get the tree out my best I could the next day. It took a month because we were so backed up in this area and I wasn't the priority. We had people, they were searching for people trying to get survivors. My tree was not that important. It might have taken 3 months. Well, you don't want to be in a battle with the insurance company over what a reasonable period of time is with no evidence, right? If neither side has any evidence, you're going to end up fighting a legal battle. Instead, have all the evidence. I contacted him on this date. I got myself on the list as soon as I could. Everything you did to get back up and running, you want to make sure is documented. You have notes, when the phone calls were, what was said on the phone call. Just overly document this stuff, proving that you were doing your best, because there are some areas that are going to take years probably to come back from it, to get fully up and running. And there are probably some dental practices that won't be up and running for over a year. So, you just don't want to get into a battle with the insurance company over how much this is going to pay out for you. So
that makes sense.
Documentation is key. Over document, don't think the insurance company is going to take your word for it on the back end.
Makes a lot of sense there. And I'll go a little off script just because I'm curious. For those severely devastated areas, we think Asheville, we think Western North Carolina, that it might take years for a full recovery. Is the insurance company going to wait until all of the damage happens and then pay you in a lump sum? Do they kind of pay you ongoing? Is there any precedent for something like that?
Yeah. Generally speaking, the adjuster is going to come out. Okay. So physical damage, they should give you a check for. Sure. To get you back up and running to go spend. So that's physical damage. This business interruption stuff, they should be paying, as soon as you can prove the claim. Sure. So the sooner you're filing, the better. But yeah, there is precedent. Generally speaking, they're going to write you a check. Sure. Insurance companies, if you want to know who buys all of the bonds out there, it's largely insurance companies. They don't invest the same way that we do. We invest for a liability for somebody's spending, right? And that liability is down the road. Well, insurance companies invest knowing they have to make claims out. So they need to be very, very liquid. Their returns are not very high because of this comparatively. Sure. And not a bad thing. Again, they just know situations like this will arise and they have to have reserves. And then a lot of them, what they'll do is they will reinsure risk. So there's an entire industry, for those of you who don't know, of insurance companies for insurance companies. We call it reinsurance. And, these companies are saying, let's just say my wife works at the Hartford, and the Hartford actually does my business owner's policy, and it's kind of their bread and butter. So I'd be shocked if we had less than half of our audience who has a Hartford policy. I would assume it's 50% or more has a Hartford policy. Well, the Hartford, if they're writing every single business owner in the Southeast, they want to go get some reinsurance over an event like this. So they're going to say, hey, we have the financial stability to cover up to this amount. And, whether it's 100 million, 200 million, I don't really know insurance that well, but they've kind of got a ceiling, at which point they'll go out to these reinsurers, and they'll go to the reinsurers and say, hey, we bid, we actually want to buy an insurance policy of what will happen if an event happens, and we're on the hook for more than X amount of dollars. So that reinsurance company, they also have liquidity expectations. So there should be liquidity in order to pay for this stuff.
Makes sense.
So we hope everyone gets paid out as quickly as possible, but having this documentation is absolutely going to be key for it.
That's really, really helpful. And to that point, it sounded like P&Ls, financial documents, are probably your friend in this case of showing, here's what we did this October to November, and here's what we did the last one, right?
Yeah. So if you're going after one of these more obscure coverages, the physical damages, pictures of the physical damage, what it impacted, the more pictures, the better. But if you're going after one of these other ones, you need to have a picture and a story revolving around the cause. So whether or not it's you have a copy of the governor's order, or you have, pictures of the roadway that was let in, or news reports, whatever it may be that's reporting and showing and providing that story that you're telling on why there was an impact. So you need to have the subjective piece of it, which is why this happened and why it's an insurable event. That's the subjective piece. The objective piece is your financial documents, right? You've got your P&Ls, you've got the revenues, you've got the bank account statements. You can prove you were impacted. And the reason you need both is just because you were down doesn't mean you got an insurable event that happened. I'm a bad business owner, and we just didn't collect money for 2 months. Well, the insurance company ain't bailing you out there, and that's what they're trying to be sure of. The more documentation that you have there, absolutely the better. But P&Ls and bank statements are going to be your friend.
It's huge. That's really good to know. And a final question for you that I have is order of operations, right? We keep hearing that FEMA is on the ground and there might be some federal support for some of these affected areas, but I'm sure our audience isn't shocked to hear that the federal government might take some time to actually pay out, and we're probably talking years for that. So probably looking at the private insurance first before we're counting on government funds.
Yeah, right? I've never actually had to deal with FEMA, so this will probably be some of our first times here going through and getting federal funding. However, the Stafford Act, did I get that right?
That's right.
Okay. Going off the top of my head here, the Stafford Act, which I believe was passed in 2023, it's pretty recent though on the Stafford Act, is going to require that FEMA pays second, or pays last. So if you're in a devastated area and we need FEMA funds, basically what FEMA is saying is, look, we are not on the hook for what insurance is supposed to pay. We are not a bailout to the insurance companies. So if you go and you just say, oh, FEMA's coming to clean up our area, and you don't file an insurance claim, and FEMA finds out about it, FEMA is not going to pay you because you didn't file an insurance claim. So even if you get rejected from everything, you need to file the claim. You need to give your best effort to get the money. Now, the insurance should pay for those. If you're receiving FEMA money and you're not receiving insurance money, there's something wrong. So you need to make that notice of claim as soon as possible. But yes, that will be, don't sit back and rely on the FEMA money, because they find out you didn't file an insurance claim and they're going to back out of paying and you're going to be left with nothing. Wow. So that's an extremely important thing to go ahead and get covered.
Incredibly important. And then I know that kind of central theme is we don't really want to take no for an answer right away, right? Insurance, they are a business too. So they are going to fight against your full claim probably. And that's not because they're trying to be mean, but that's their service model. So if they get that initial no, it sounds like, hey, we're not going to necessarily accept that and lay down for it. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So if you get a no from any of these, make sure you fight it. You can always contact your state insurance board. That's one way. So especially if, you think yours is covered, get with your dental colleagues, right? If there's a group of you and they're denying all of you, go to the state insurance board as a group. Maybe you've got somebody on the state dental board that can go contact them on everyone's behalf, but go as a group. Don't just lay down if you think you deserve money. Most of the large claims, I don't suspect there'll be much fighting on. But some of these provisions in here, they're a little less common. I'm not going to be surprised to get kickback on them. Like some of them, your policy excludes hurricanes. Well, which provision in the policy excludes hurricanes? Is it my business interruption, or was the hurricane the cause, or was my utility being out the cause? So don't just lay down if somebody tells you, hurricanes are excluded, you're on your own. No, it could be true, but it might not be true because there's a reality here. A lot of people are going to discover that they don't have the provision they would have needed. So that's why this is a good time to look over your policy. If you aren't in an impacted area, talk to your agent and figure out, are any of these provisions something that we need to add? And I give a good chuckle and a shout out to Charlie. Many of our clients utilize Charlie. He only really works in the Southeast, but Charlie's great. Sometimes I try to get my insurance premiums cheaper, and Charlie talks me off the ledge and tells me, Wes, you need this provision. I'm like, I really don't. It's going to save $200 a year. Well, I found more of these provisions than I thought I would in my policy, so thank you, Charlie.
Shout out.
Unfortunately, we don't need them here. We're in good shape. But some of this stuff, you don't think you need it until you do. So if you don't have it, now's a good time. Call up your broker, call up your agent, say, hey, do we have everything we need? Would this have been covered? And there's another thing I'm working on. I don't quite have the answer to yet. I've got a contingent answer, so we're probably going to have to do a whole nother episode on another type of insurance, but also the same provision could apply, which is replacement cost adequate? And I'm working on this for another client, which really spurred it, trying to figure out if it's adequate or not. And we're kind of diving into provisions of the policy. It's getting pretty detailed to figure out, but I'm also curious for myself because, I was really thinking of it, and we had another client in here, and the client was going to build a house. And we're talking about how much it's going to be to build a house. Well, the house they're going to build, truthfully, is about the same cost as the one they're in. They don't want to renovate the one they're in. However, building it from scratch, he asked me, he's like, well, what would happen if you had to rebuild? I'm like, well, it's not like you're going to the junkyard to get some of these used hardwoods, right? It's not going to be any cheaper to rebuild your current one. It's going to be to build this one that you're building, which is what really got me thinking of, what is my maximum replacement cost? And I kind of looked at it in my square footage, and I was like, that ain't happening. Yeah. There's just no way. So I called my father-in-law, who used to be CEO of Country Financial, and figured an insurance guy, just poke a random question. I asked him, hey, have you upped your dwelling value, your replacement cost, and your home insurance in the last 4 years? And he goes, yeah, of course. I was like,
sorry, not.
I was like, so I guess the rest of us should probably be doing that too, huh? Right. So yeah, that's another thing to look at is, hey, if I've got building or build out on there, am I still adequately covered, or have I been riding the same coverage for 10, 15 years and it hasn't gone up? A lot of people get upset. They think their broker is trying to sell them something. They're calling them, telling them they need to raise their coverages. That's probably a good broker. Unfortunately, the people probably don't take it well because the premium is going to go up, but it's probably keeping you in really, really good shape. And, that applies to the business policies, the home policies. So it's something we're looking into. I think there may be a provision there where there's a 20% buffer. That's probably policy specific, but we've got a couple calls out, and we're going to be meeting with some insurance experts to figure that out. But as you're meeting with them, that's another good thing to look at, to go, hey, my replacement cost on this building or the value of it, $700,000, but my replacement cost on it might be 1.4 million. And then figuring out, hey, what's my build out cost? Was this based off the build out from 20 years ago? Does I have $150,000 interior build out on there? You're like, yeah, you ain't even get the architect plans, off some of the cost we have going on today. So, while you're in there looking, making sure you have all the right provisions, make sure you have adequate coverage as well.
Very good to know.
So yeah, big things to look at, but overall takeaways: get your policy ASAP. Make a notice of claim. You don't need to make the actual claim, but make the notice of claim as soon as possible that you intend on filing that claim. Take as much documentation as you can. You get pictures from friends, colleagues, don't care. Make sure you have all of it there. And then grab financial documents. And, if it gets real intense, don't be scared to call an attorney and pay for a few hours of time to get some help filling this stuff out. And for those of you who aren't impacted, now's a good wake-up call that I think we probably all need to take a look at our business owner policies and make sure that everything in there is, adequately covered.
Sure, absolutely. No, and our thoughts and prayers continue to be with those in affected areas. We wanted to make sure we got this out timely, and we'll be continuing to think of you. But Wes, thank you so much for the advice and the time today.
Liam, thank you. And everyone else, we'll see you back next time.